Morning everyone, this video is going to be on how to pick schemes and think about building crews and playing around your schemes and strats and how games progress. This is not master specific, it's not going to be gremlin specific. I know I've made some Sommer ones where I talk about, how Sommer does them. But I think in improving in Malifaux, one of the biggest weak points of players is picking schemes and thinking about how the game is going to progress in their head before it even happens, and then playing around that, right? So I put up an example of ITC round 1, right? So there's 5 different games here, and we're just gonna go and kind of talk about them and how we would approach them as a player, right? Because it's not just seeing things like, oh, it's Headhunter, oh, it's Leave Your Mark. There's deployment, there's what you're against, and stuff like that. So the first game table one is Headhunter Flank, Flame Jump, Leave Your Mark, Frame for Murder, Last Stand, Undercover Entourage. So things that pop out to me, right? So it's Headhunter. Headhunter doesn't demand space. And what I mean by that is there's no requirement to be in any certain part of the board in Headhunter. You could play the whole game in your back corner, and assuming the schemes, you could score something, then it wouldn't change anything. It's not like Extraction where you have to be in the middle, or Stake a Claim where you got to be on the other side. So that dictates schemes for me, right? So now I have the automatic where I don't have to do anything, and my opponent can't score Headhunter without me interacting with them in some way, without them coming up and killing something. So we were talking about these as a team. Obviously, we played them, as you can see our names and stuff at the top. And so some of this, I'll let you know some of the stuff we went through when it comes to this, and kind of the thought process that goes into thinking about how you plan on winning the game before the game even starts. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but you can kind of get some insight, right? So, Headhunter Flank. We picked Kaladi to play it, and what's the reasoning behind that? One, he has 2 lures. So in Headhunter, the best way to get ahead, an uncontested head, is to bring somebody into you, kill them, and then pick it up in the backfield, right? So that was kind of like, that's the Headhunter play. Because if you go fight to fight, if you go like man to man out in the middle, you're basically saying, hey, I hope it goes my way. I hope the heads fall where I need them, and blah 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 blah. I hope I don't give up too many heads. And those type of Headhunter games are fine, I think. But this kind of play is more controlling. This kind of play is, hey, I'm going to control where the heads are. I'm not going to go start a bloodbath where heads are everywhere. I'm going to say, I'm not going to kill that much, but if you come in and try to stop me and kill me, I'm going to kill one of your models and take a head. And not only does he have 2 lures, because he had Lilitu and Doppel to copy it, but Kaladi's actually really good at Headhunter, because let's just take there's a little minion, and it's kind of far away, right? Kaladi can attack it once, do some damage, but if he stones or gets the trigger that lets him take 1 AP with that model, he can walk towards them. He can make it walk towards them. So now, boom, model walks towards him. Then he uses second attack to kill the model, drops the head. He can 0 action to creep at it, pick up the head. He's just spent 3 AP to get ahead in his deployment zone, and he still has an AP to walk away, or maybe it took an AP to walk to even get the initial attack, right? So he has a lot of ways to bring models to him, get heads, and get out. So we already like him in Headhunter. All right, now we look at the schemes, and we say, hey, what would we take? What's on our mind, right? Last stand, Claim Jump. I love Claim Jump I take it a lot, period, but I love it in strats that don't require you to be in a specific area, like I said. This is flank deployment. So there's nothing, you can easily rotate yourself. Imagine starting in a corner, right? And rotating clockwise or counterclockwise to the other corner of the board. The one that's not your opponent's, obviously. So now you're playing the game from that corner because there's nothing that stops you. You can put down 2 claim markers every turn. And that's it. You're scoring 3 points no matter what, right? Now you have the potential leave your marker on the cover entourage. Last stand, you're avoiding just avoiding the enemy. You're scoring 3 points, right? Because we've already determined if the enemy just bum rushes you, if they just come at you, it's a game. It's a different type of game. We're playing the game of they don't do that, right? So we want to win the game where the enemy avoids us. We don't want to be the one that forces the engage. Because when you force the engage, you are a lot of times on the back foot. Because the enemy now doesn't have to, they don't care. When you come in, they'll use their AP to kill you as needed and stop you. But they're not wasting, not wasting's a bad, they don't have to be the ones that aggress and take chances to get in there and kill you. So he took claim jump, because we told him to. And he agreed with it, obviously. So we're like, all right, go to the other corner and take claim jump. Now you're scoring 3 points. Boom, 3 points for you. If the enemy does the same, great for them. They got 3 points on the other side. You're not going to stop it. You don't care. Now he said, okay, what's the next one we should use? Leave your mark would probably work in this one, but it's kind of can be AP intensive, and it's probably hard to do if they're going to come at you. So he said, all right, fuck leave your mark. We're not playing that one. Frame for murder, I said no way. Reason being, it's too, if you do frame something, all right, let's say you framed your model. You have to get it killed, and you have to get it killed in time by the model you want, in a scheme pool that if they kill you, they're probably getting your head. So worst case for you, best case for your opponents is they trade it, right? Oh, they kill your frame and they pick up the head. Best case for you is they kill it with a master from far away, and you get 2 points and you get the head. But that's probably not going to happen. So more likely what's going to happen is if you ever force the issue to kill your frame target, is they kill it, they give you 2 points because they probably don't kill it with a master because they're probably smarter than that. And then they get the head and you get a 1 point advantage, right? Sounds great, 1 point for you, but if you listen to how we planned on playing the game, you would lose if you did that. All right, last stand's not going to happen. You didn't have enough enforcers, and I actually think it's a bad idea because, like I said, the way we're going to play it from our side first. So we said, don't take frame, don't take last stand, take undercover entourage. You have Kaladi. It's flank deployment, so their deployment's really big. If you play the claim jump game and go into the corner, their corner, you're only you're going to be fairly close to the deployment zone to just run, creep into it, and get your 3 points. Obviously, if Kaladi dies, that's an issue, but you can't plan for that kind. So automatically, our plan is to get 6 points without fighting. That's great. We're going to potentially tie the game just 6-6. So now this puts pressure on the opponent, right? If they don't take claim, if they take claim jump, they'll get their 3 points. If they take leave your mark, they'll probably get their 3 points. If they take frame, they are probably not going to get 3 points, and then you are at advantage right there, right? So frame, even if they think you're a murder master and they're going to get their little piece of shit killed, you don't have to do it. You're getting 6 points without it, and this is not taking into account Headhunter, right? Last stand is the same way. You can have, you're not killing anything, right? You don't plan on killing that much. The minute they start, doing last stand, and you don't think it's going to be a close game, you think you can just kill your own models because they're going to have to kill theirs to get it down so they lose 1 point. Kaladi walks in, you win 5-6. They could take undercover entourage, which is fine, and the game is around the 6-6. So automatically, we've made a game plan here, right? Just talking, guys. We've made it, and I would do the same. I would have took entourage, and I played him in this. I would take entourage and claim jump. Get claim jump, have my entourage ready, and then do kind of a ticky-tacky Headhunter game, trying to lure models out, trying to get that head advantage to win. Maybe if you think they have something like undercover entourage, trying to put some wounds on their master or whatever it is so they don't get all the points for it. It still becomes a game. You still have to do stuff to win. But you just put yourself into advantage where you're not fighting that hard to get your 6 points. Now your focus is on Headhunter. and trying to lure people in, trying to use Kaladi to maybe pick off a head. Because if you pick off a head in Headhunter, you can run into the corner and win the game, right? Because if they can't get ahead, they'll never beat you because you'll have 7. So that's kind of like the uninteractive game, but you're interacting at the same time. You're forcing the enemy to do something. Let's take, for example, they don't take claim jump. They're like, I'm going to do entourage and frame. That's a lot of pressure on them to come at you and get that frame for murder target, because they can't win if they don't. If you notice they don't have claim jump, you could easily, come back and hurt them. So that kind of was our thought process there, and that's pretty much what happened. So that's kind of like how we talked through how the game was going to go. And hopefully that was a little informative. It was like just my thought process of that's how you kind of dictate what you're going to do. Now, you can pivot on that. Like, we didn't take like, it wasn't impossible for us to do leave your mark or frame. It's just said that's probably the best way to play. Like, if you do all the iterations of what schemes you're going to take, it's probably the best set of schemes you can take, given how the enemy's going to play. All right? So let's go to round 4, because Larry, this is when we talked to a lot about Larry, right? So Larry played Sandeep, he played Reckoning. Reckoning is another great example of you don't have to kill anything. There's nothing that says you have to score a Reckoning point to win the game, right? So I want to be the defensive player a lot of the time. I want to be the one that says, I'm going to win the game or tie if you don't make a move, or if you pick the wrong schemes, right? So we have claim jump, frame for murder, accusation, setup, hidden trap, right? Okay, so this one's a standard deployment. So what we said to him was, or we talked about with him, and my idea, I said, hey, first off, claim jump 100%. Run to the edge, fortify a position, do claim jump. Because he can't stop it unless he comes for you, and if he comes for you, he's probably getting Reckoning. Accusation sucks. No one's going to try to do that, especially in Reckoning. So now we have 3 left. Hidden trap, setup, frame for murder. These depend on the enemy a lot. And so we were trying to think of ways when we would take different ones. So frame for murder and Reckoning seems pretty good, because they kind of have to kill. Like, if they want the Reckoning point, they can kill. So the big, tactic, quote-unquote, we had here was take a performer no matter what. They're actually pretty good in this anyway, but we said take a performer. Because you can do 2 things. 1, you can potentially ruin their claim jump for a turn or 2. 2, if you really need to, you can frame for murder her. And so if you're playing off in this corner, or this edge, dropping your stake of claim, trying to not to get Reckoninged. And of course, this is on the assumption that they are playing the same way, playing this cagey game, because everything goes out the door if they come at you, right? Everything goes out the door. Then it becomes like a game where you're playing. I'm going to say not more tactical, but you're playing a different type of game. The idea here is, if the enemy chooses to be cagey as well, you want to have the best chance to win. You want to force their hand, right? So that's why we take claim jump. Secondly, frame for murder feels nice, right? It feels nice, but it's pretty obvious if they were to send 1 model at you, you could be like, okay, that's framed. I'm going to take some burning. I'm going to take something that I can deal with this frame for murder. Or, because there's 2 things that's going to happen. One, the model is going to be something like a Howard. I know it's Lucius, but this is before we knew who it was. It's going to be something like a Howard or something, where it's like, I need to kill him, or he's going to score Reckoning. Or it's going to be something like a Bayou Gremlin, where you're like, alright, it can stay alive. It's not worth my time to kill. Right? So if it's Howard, and you think it's going to be Howard, what you can do is take setup on Howard, right? So if he does bring the model into you, you just set it up, score your points, and then kill him. And then, then you're at the advantage at that point, assuming you don't kill it with a master. So that's kind of a thought process there. Now, if you frame, the reason we took a performer is I said, all right, you go into the corner, the edge with one thing. Keep the performer near the middle, behind terrain. Just chill him. The minute he drops a claim jump, go at him and like try to blow up the markers for a turn. Make or run up and try to drop a setup. Like, so now you have options. One, she's annoying enough that she's stopping claim jump. So if she's your frame target, what are they going to do? They're going to leave her alive so she can stop all the claim jumps from happening? Because she can stop like 2 or 3 markers herself just by moving and blowing them up. But if she's framed, then they kind of have to kill her. And then you're at the advantage because you might not have to kill their like frame for murder person. I think he ended up taking setup because the guy went like balls deep at him. But hidden trap was also something because you got to think of what they're going to do, right? If they're going to set up, you can hopefully see it coming because they can't set up the performer. If they do hidden trap, again, it's very difficult because they have to get markers near you. If they frame, you can probably see it coming. So things like that, right? Where since they have to pick schemes before you deploy, and that's the big thing about Malifaux. You're picking schemes before you deploy, which means things like, what's a good example? Oh, I take setup on X, and that model goes nowhere near your crew, and you're just like, oh shit, I can never score this because he did not run the way I thought he was going to run. Same thing here. You know, you're trying to guess right. And a lot of it comes down, and the guy ended up being a very aggressive Lucius list. So this kind of stuff goes out the door, and you kind of can play the normal Reckoning game. But again, you know, it kind of gives you the advantage because you're sitting there scoring your points, being all well and good, and they have to come in and try to kill you. It's kind of hard to run into a gun line because they're spending a lot of AP on moving, and you're spending all your AP just getting ready for them to like come at you. So that's why games like Reckoning and Headhunter can be interesting in that kind of sense, where the schemes can really dictate how the game is played. Let's go to another game. Which one? Terra is always a good one. So Terra, stake a claim, corner, claim jump, dig the graves, activation, hidden trap, inspection. I actually don't know what Travis took. I think he took claim jump and hit inspection. I think because that's the only one he thought he could do. He ended up tying this game, but the idea with why Terra in stake a claim corner is so good because he took the 6 void wrenches. He can pop fast on them with Terra, and they have a 0 action to make people slow. So it's very, very difficult for you to drop stake a claim markers because most models only have 2 AP unless you're like Gremlins or something. So if your little scheme runner just gets slowed, boom, you can't do stake a claim that turn, and you're in a bad position. And then he scores them, and then stake a claim is one of those very AP intensive schemes that it gets super hard, right? The more behind you get, the harder it gets. If they put down 3 turn 2 and you put down 0, and you're not like winning the game in the terms of like killing models, you now have to spend 6 AP, 3 separate models to even match his without him putting one down. And then he can use his AP since he already has the ski marker, the stakes down, to slow you down, tie you up, and everything like that. But all of a sudden, he's up to a 4-0 lead. You're probably trying to drop markers. He can probably do claim jump that turn. Now he's going 7-0. You can't win because you never get claim. He ended up tying. I think something happened. Dreamer killed some stuff. But that's like the thought process there, right? That's kind of an easy one. But people were really confused by the Voidling list until they played against it and they realized, wow, he doesn't have to kill me. He's just dropping markers and slowing my models, and I just can't do anything to win on the strats. Squatters Rice close, my game. Thought process. Now I told people, and I told you in my other video, I did not want to play Vix because I think they ruined a lot of the plan I had. We know how the game went. It's in the video. But I'm going to tell you my thought process because I kind of knew my list before I ever sat down at the table, right? So we're playing Squatters' Rights Close. Close sucks for Gremlins a lot of the time unless you're playing like Wong. But I knew I was playing Summer, so it didn't matter, whatever. So Squatters' Rights is one of my favorites because it's AP intensive. It forces you to the parts of the board. I think there's a lot of tactics in Squatters' Rights. I think it's definitely a top 3. I think Squatters' Rights, Headhunter. I'm starting to dislike Stake because it is one-sided, even though I'm very good at Stake a Claim with Gremlins. But it's one of my favorites. Squatters' Rights, I think, and Headhunter are my 2 favorite to play. So when I'm building my crew, as much as I'm trying to get schemes, I'm trying to deny schemes, right? So I'm trying to force the enemy into this little ball of schemes that they can pick where I can guess it and also deny it. So Claim Jump is always one that's pretty easy, not easy, but pretty good choice, right? At least for me, because I have a lot of AP. So I have the AP to do Claim Jump. I have the activations to activate last where you can put your markers down at the end of the turn so that the enemy can't contest them. Eliminate the leadership. I don't like taking it that much, but Somber is not the easiest to kill, even though he was killed in this game. For most masters, he's hard to kill. I have a lot of healing. I have squeals. I had Dirty Cheater on him. I had a Slop Hauler. I was like, this guy's staying alive versus most things. So just taking a master like Sommer who can survive, and I play a lot of Eliminate the Leadership. I knowingly always take Dirty Cheater if there's Eliminate the Leadership, because I want to be able to heal him like 4 times in a turn if I need to. He shoots, cheats, blah, 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 heals a lot. Leave your mark. I don't love it in this pool because it requires going past the strap, right? Why do I need to go 6 more inches when I need to be in the center? So I don't want to waste a lot of time moving when I don't have to. So if I can hold the center and then not have to run down the board, I like that. Now, it's not saying it's a bad scheme choice. If you run up somebody near the flank that nobody's at, pop your squat marker and it's never going to be flipped by anybody, and then run another 6 inches next turn and drop a scheme, then leave your mark is fine. And that depends on what the enemy is. Recover evidence. But I also took a crew that had so many models, it's very hard to leave your mark versus me because I had, so many bayous that could just run 15 inches with Reckless and stop your marker for a turn. Recover evidence. I probably was never going to do it. I did bring Fingers, so it was possible. And because it is close, it's not the worst one. The reason it's not bad in close is you're going to have more turns to pick up the markers. Because turn 2, the beginning of 2, everyone's going to be like in the middle. So you can say, okay, recover evidence, boom. Almost everybody's in the middle. They're close to you. You have more turns. As opposed to if it was standard deployment, they would probably be turn 2. They're not like as close to you as they are close, obviously. So it's harder to get to. You might have to wait till turn 3 to drop the markers. I again took a crew where it was very hard for them to do it versus me because I do have models that stand near the back, Bayou Gremlins, and so I could pick a lot of models that weren't in the front lines, and then it would take extra moves in AP just to get past my models to get up the recover evidence. Talem, again, it's close deployment. All I took is Sommer and Fingers. Fingers can't be Talemed. He kind of prevents Sommer if he's close enough. Sommer, if you activate last, you can get him out of there. Unless you're handling, you can't really avoid the Master Talem that well. But I figured in this one, I have so many Gremlins that if they did take a Master or a lot of henchmen that I didn't think would get killed, it was easy for me to score. So going in, because I took Fingers, I took my Sommer list with Fingers, I had said, all right, I can do Claim Jump and I can deny Claim Jump because I have a lot of models and Fingers. Eliminate the leadership. I tried my best to take Sommer with a lot of defensive things so he could heal. Leave your mark. I had a lot of models and I had Fingers, so harder to do versus me. Recover evidence. Again, I have a lot of models and I have Fingers, so another very hard scheme to do versus me. And Talem. I have Fingers who can't be Talemed, And I have Sommer, who I have a lot of activations were to get him out of the sight, but more so, he doesn't play that close. And I have enough things to like shoot off their minions, I would think. I mean, that was probably one of the better ones to take versus me, depending on the crew. She ended up taking the Vix and really didn't have the minions to put Talem on me. She ended up doing eliminate and leave your mark, but that was my thought process going in. My thought process is, how can I give myself the best chance to score some of these, and at the same time make it hard for my opponent? Because the harder it is for my opponent to score, the more focus I can do on getting the squatters, getting my own schemes. I think people don't appreciate that kind of thing sometimes, where denying is almost as good as getting it yourself. Or at least, and I don't think Masters should be able to deny Talem, period, like Hamlin. I don't think that's fair. But no one says you have to make it easy on somebody. Kind of like inspection, right? One anti-inspection strategy is to just play in that corner. Play in one corner. Bring your whole, and it depends on the strat, but play the game in one of the corners that they have to inspect in, or edges, which pretty much denies Talem, gives you claim jump, and then sets the game in a certain spot. And like I said, these things are, we thought through these. When things get, especially when they're released early, you sit there and you think about it and you go, all right, how can I, and things change depending on what masters you end up playing against and what the board looks like. But you need to have some sense going into the game of, this is how I plan to play the game and how I see it going. So let me build my crew and pick my schemes accordingly, because this is a lot of the game, and I think it's a big part for people to get better. Extraction standard, nothing against Tristan, but extraction forces you in the middle, which means search the runes is pretty good. Hunting party, maybe you don't want to take a ton of minions. Dig their graves. He had Fiona and Nelly who drops markers, so she's very good at that. I think he had dig their graves and search the runes, so he could just drop so many markers. That extraction, I think there are scheme pools where you're just like, all right, let's play extraction, blow you off the board, and kind of go from there. That was probably one of the easier ones. Extraction turf war is usually pretty easy to plan, because everyone has to go to the middle. Like, you can't win if you don't go to the middle. So a lot of these other ones don't force you to go in a specific area, so you got to kind of think another level above. So that is an example of choosing schemes and the thought process behind why I chose different things, what our strategy was going into the game. And I guess what I want people to get from this is just see the example of how we thought about things. How you can sit down before a game and go, this is how I think the game's going to go. This is where I want to play on the board. This is why I want to choose this side, how I want to deploy, because it all stems from this, right? It all stems from, I think, picking schemes, and I'm drawing a circle on my table saying that is circling. Picking schemes is one of the weakest part of players. Obviously, playing the game and just not doing things properly is another large part, but I think this is a deeper part, as far as everyone focuses on, oh, I shouldn't have moved this model there, or, oh, this flip went bad for me. And a lot of times it can be brought back. So I guess a good example is Trick, not to call out Trick. He's the Polish guy I played round 4. He came to me after the game, and he said, do you think I played the game wrong? Like, how he played move-wise. And I told him, I don't think he made any, like, egregiously bad move. But I didn't think his list was good into the scenario. He had 2 trappers, and yeah, they didn't kill the slop hauler, right? They didn't kill it. It happens. I had 13s. I had frame on the thing anyway. I don't know how much it would have mattered. But the fact that he had 2 trappers and not something bigger to, like, tie up gremlins, like, and contest the squat markers more, I thought that was a bigger choice for him. He had like 4 dogs and 2 trappers and a field report. I'm like, that core group does not do that much damage. my whole crew can do a ton of damage and has as many, scheme markers stuff as you. You need something to tie me up, to kill models up close, and to hold the squat markers. And he just didn't have it. So that's an example of, hey, you didn't play that bad. You didn't just run your master and get him killed turn 1. But you didn't choose the right list. And he chose Search the Runes, which in the scheme pool, it might have been the best choice. But I had Fingers, and I know he didn't play for Fingers. And I just kept flipping his markers, and I took Search the Runes. So it just made it easier on me, because I flipped his marker into mine, and then Search the Runes is even better for me. So I was like, given what you had, you played pretty well. But I don't think what you had was good enough, without some luck, to beat me in this particular scenario. And I think that happened several times. Talking my Peter, my last game, great guy, he took 7 model Lynch into Stake a Claim, and I had a pick a bolt with like 13 activations. And in my head, I was just like, I don't think your list can beat mine if we both play pretty well and I don't make like stupid mistakes. The back foot's on him. He's 100% on the back foot, because I have so many models and so many activations to do so many scheme marker based things and Stake a Claim that what do you do? Like, how do you compete against that? And so some of these overwhelming matchups sometimes these guys didn't complain, but some people have complained to me or complained in general, and I'm just like, it's your own fault. Like, it's your fault you couldn't win the game, because you set yourself up to lose the minute you picked your crew and your schemes. And that's a great and bad thing about Malifaux. I've said it before. Malifaux is not that fun when you are significantly better than your opponent, right? Now, I'm not saying, like I said, ITC, I was not significantly better than anybody I played. I thought some games I played better, but it wasn't like a whitewash because of skill. Sometimes it was just pairing and how it went. But I'm saying, like, otherwise, like if you're playing in Warhammer, it's like good and bad, because in Warhammer, if I played a mediocre player with a good list versus mine, I didn't like it, because I could easily lose, and it didn't feel like I was really beat. It felt like I was like shot off the board or something. In Malifaux, it doesn't feel like that. I feel like I win the games I deserve to win. I rarely lose games where I was like, I almost never lose a game where I was like, man, I should have won. I played perfectly, right? Because even my loss at ITC, I talked about in my video how I made mistakes in my tactical thinking, kind of like how I played the schemes, and I thought I could have done better. And that's great. I love that game. That was one of my favorite games of the weekend, was the one I lost, because the way I had to think just made me happy. But when you play players who mess up in the crew building, mess up in picking schemes and stuff, it really can snowball the game to a point of almost no fun for them, because it's like, what do you do? It's like, I can't make your crew for you. I can't pick your schemes. I can't play the game. At least in Warhammer, we could just make a list for a noob and say, hey, play it. It's not that hard. In Malifaux, there's so many steps to lose. So many steps for you to lose. And it can make it seem overwhelming versus somebody who knows what they're doing. And like I said, not shockingly, my best games are versus people who are close in skill level. But when you're playing a weaker player, as the better player, you have two choices. One, just crush them and get the game over with, which is what I'll do in a tournament. I'll be nice. I know everyone thought I was a dick until they actually met me. But like in a tournament, I'll just beat you. I'm not going to like make the game super close for no reason. But in friendly games, like, you really do have to play down to make the game last longer than a turn or two, or play. That's when you test new things. I enjoy testing a new master versus new players, because I don't have to focus as much on their game. I'm focusing on how my master works. So we're both learning, but I can take my attention to my own. I also like playing against new masters, because I start to learn their rules. But that being said, it's just hard. When the skill level is huge and it's not a tournament, it's hard to play sometimes, because you want to practice at your best and be ready for tournaments. But what do you do when you're like, if they pick the wrong stuff and just deploy bad, the game can be over in a turn. So that's just Malifaux for you. It's getting, the scene's growing, it's getting bigger, it's exciting, but we're trying to make everyone better. And I think picking schemes and picking crews, this is a topic I talk about a lot at tournaments with my opponents after the game. You can talk all day about the flip that went bad and maybe you shouldn't have made this move, but I can bring it back to building a crew and thinking about when I explain like what my plan was to win the game. A lot of people go, "Oh wow, that I didn't think of that," and that's what you got to think of next time. Kind of like how we did when we walked through the schemes that I showed you guys. Anyway, I know I haven't done a tactical video in a while. Hopefully, I can make some more where I talk about, this is the big one, but kind of like how to get better without doing things like threat range and stuff. Just how to think about the game, how to react after a loss and dwell on something. That might be another video. But I hope this was useful. Thanks for listening.